Hey everyone, I'm Smoktopus or Patters, and this time I thought I would do a little commentary to go with my most recent Speedpaint. I have a lot of thoughts about Animal Crossing, so it only makes sense to talk about as I work on drawing my most recent villagers. I'm sure everyone watching this already knows about New Horizons, but this video is part of a mini project of mine to draw every single villager I get. I'm hoping in the end, I might be able to draw every villager in the game, but that might take a little while just given how many villagers there are. This picture includes Sherb, Knox, Olaf, and Ankha. This little project was originally meant to just be a series of simple sketches, but something happened along the way, and I keep putting more and more effort into each sketch. I can't even say it's a sketch at this point given how much work I end up putting into it, but it's still a fun project to do, I think. Ankha was the first one I really wanted to draw in the series, and I don't think that's any surprise. I've never had her before, but she immediately won me over with her style. I mean, I was one of those kids that loved Egypt, like ancient Egypt and stuff. So I think if I had her on my island at the time, I probably would have gone way more wild about Animal Crossing than I even did at the time, and I went pretty wild. Olaf was the next one I drew, but in a set of villagers, he was actually the first one I got. He was the first smug villager at my campsite, and I didn't realize for a couple weeks that you had to invite the first smug villager to your campsite, and I was kind of avoiding him because it's not that I don't like him, but there are other smug villagers I'm really trying to get, mainly Phil. So I guess I was a little bit disappointed, but he's still cool. I do like the anteaters, honestly. He's also just a very fancy anteater, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I think every smug villager is good, honestly. At first, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with Knox, but as I looked at him, I had a moment of inspiration that kind of came from... Okay, so have you ever seen those medieval paintings where the knight is fighting a snail? There's a lot of medieval paintings like that, so I kind of wanted to do something like that. Poor guy is definitely scared, so he's using a ladder to try to protect himself. Sherb was easy. I wanted to draw Sherb as a sleepy sheep, since he just seems really tired. That's kind of his thing. He came from Pocket Camp originally, from what I know, so it's fun to see him in a mainline game, I think. I think I first recruited him because I saw him on an island while I was trying to find Tarantula Island. He just immediately won my heart, and I immediately forgot about trying to find Tarantula Island, so I just had to invite him over. Animal Crossing has meant a lot to me over the years, but I have probably put the most time in the original GameCube game, Population Growing, as well as New Leaf. While I liked Wild World, I really missed Acres at the time for some reason, and I didn't like some of the changes made, like how you couldn't sneak with a net. City Folk was just too similar to Wild World for my tastes. I feel like I should go back and try them sometime and give them a second chance, but I haven't really gotten around to it. I also tried Pocket Camp for a while, but I kind of dropped it pretty quickly when I realized it didn't have Phil in it yet. I need to check if they have Phil yet. If Phil's in there right now, I might pull it up again just so I can get him in my campsite. In case you couldn't tell, Phil is definitely one of my favorites. My original favorite has to be Bob, though. Bob was one of the first villagers in my first ever Animal Crossing town, and something about his aesthetic, the fact he's a purple cat, just everything, his house, I really warmed up to him really quickly as a kid. I was pretty lonely, I guess, so I think Animal Crossing kind of helped fill the void that I had with not having all that many friends at the time. But here's the thing. If you're a newer player, you might not know this, but in the original games, you couldn't actually keep a villager from moving. It was pretty much completely random. You might see where this is going, but yes, Bob moved out, and I was utterly devastated. He had been my favorite villager in my whole town, and now he was just gone. It's not like he moved from one town to another, which was also a thing that often happened. He just was completely gone. He completely left. Didn't seem like I would ever get him again. I'd never get to see him again. I had to take a few days afterwards, and I did eventually come back, but to this day I'm still a little bitter about losing him. At some point around this time, we actually got the player's guide for this game. I know nowadays, player guides are mostly a joke, or just a way to have art from the game or something, But the Animal Crossing Player's Guide was really, really good. It was a massive book that covered a lot of the big points of the game, but honestly, the main reason people bought it, the main reason was for the pages and pages of item codes that you could say to Tom Nook and get items for free. The original idea of the item codes was that you could basically trade items with friends without having to go to each other's villages, and that Nintendo could give out promotional items by just giving out a code. There are actually a couple in a few Nintendo Power issues, and I believe some of the e-reader cards also had them on one side. The point is, I would constantly pull out this player's guide to make random items that I couldn't get otherwise. The NES games were really nice to have. So one day, I'm pulling out the player's guide, and I stumble upon this page that shows the creepiest face ever. It turns out that if you turn off the GameCube without saving while you're in another player's town, you'll not only lose your progress and see resetti, but your character's face would be changed to this creepy gyroid face. If you've ever seen Coco, it's like that, but it's on your face. Obviously it was just meant to keep the players from doing that, but as a little 8-year-old kid who took things really seriously, it left a big impact on me. For some reason, my brain turned "don't turn off the game without saving while in another town" into "don't turn off the game ever." I started to feel really anxious whenever I went to save the game. The fact the save screen uses different villagers of yours to tell you not to turn off the game in this orange text probably cemented this into my brain. But what really made it stick in my head was this nightmare I had a few nights later. In the nightmare, I was loading the game, but the power went off, right? So once it comes back on, I turn on the game, and the characters in the loading screen had these creepy red eyes. And they're like, "Why did you do that? Why would you do that?" And after I loaded the game, everyone had creepy red eyes like that. And I had the horrible gyroid face. And the worst part of it was that they all hated me. Honestly, this isn't completely unrealistic in the older Animal Crossing games. The villagers really could be mean. So I guess it's not impossible they would all be mean to you at the same time. The dream wrecked me way more than anybody probably expected it did. Since they got mad at me for the power going out while I was saving, since it wasn't really something that was my fault, my brain decided the best course of action was to never save in the first place. I never turned off the GameCube after that point, so Animal Crossing was constantly running. I think I left it like that for a solid month. Eventually, either I realized that if I didn't save and the power did go out, I'd lose everything, or my sibling wanted to play a different game. Weird, right? I think the most amazing part of it is the fact that the GameCube continued working as normal, even after it was on for this whole month. I'm going to guess this is because the GameCube version doesn't actually read the disc after you load the game, since all the information is stored on the memory card, but I'm really not sure. It could just be that older Nintendo consoles are really, really sturdy. I don't really have much else to add, so let's just get into the Speedpaint. yeah, that's pretty much my video. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm hoping to get used to reading for videos because I have some plans for future videos, some big plans. You might already know about if you follow my Twitter, or if you're from the future and I've already made the videos. Long story short, I'm planning a series of tutorial-esque videos that show basically the complete progress of how I make different pieces of merch using my art, such as buttons, stickers, zines. I'm also thinking of a few vlogs to show some of the experiments I'm going to do with making other, more ambitious stuff. Because I have a few ideas of how I can use stuff in my makerspace to make some pretty cool items, and if it works, I really want to be able to share that knowledge with people. Either way, I think it'll be super neat to see, and I really hope you all enjoy the content I'm going to be putting out as soon as possible. Thank you so much again, and have a good rest of the night.